Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of WSB Sports Coaches Corner. Once again with Stony Brook men's lacrosse head coach Anthony Gilardi, and real excited to chat with you. Matt, take it away.
You know what the first question is going to be,
Yeah.
obviously. And we might as well just ask it. The fact that this bomb was dropped on everybody last week, especially the basketball teams, because they are playing through it right now, that there will be no America East tournament for you guys. And the only possible way you get into the NCAA is on at-large bid. Uh, First of all, what was the initial reaction? I could imagine it was almost as bad as the one when the season was suspended due to COVID.
Yeah, I think it's obviously something that we knew was a possibility when talk was, hey, we're looking at the CAA, and we knew the bylaws in the America East, just like we knew the bylaws in the CAA when they did that to James Madison and Penn State before that. So I think we were hopeful that maybe with all the stuff these student athletes have had to deal with these last couple of years, that the presidents and the decision makers would understand that. But I mean, it's completely out of our control.
So when that happens as a coach, how do you shift the emphasis from winning the tournament to just playing for your hearts out for its own sake?
Yeah, I think when we talk about it as a program, our goals are, yeah, we'd like to win the tournament and get to the NCAA tournament every year, but it's also, internally more, it's about getting better every day and playing for the guy next to you. So I think focusing on our culture and what we really talk about on a daily basis, we don't talk about wins and losses on a daily basis, right? We talk about becoming the best team we can and taking every day, one day at a time, and playing for your brother next to you. So there was really no change in our internal focus. Obviously, we had to address it. These kids are 18 to 22-year-old kids, and it's a lot for them, but I think one of the things that we do as coaches, right, that sometimes gets lost in it is we're teachers first, and we teach life lessons through sports. Right. So this is a great life lesson that sometimes bad things happen in life. Right. It's happened to all of us, and there's things that are out of control, and how you attack that and what your character truly is going to come out in those moments. Right. And this is a lesson that we can draw back on as those guys get older, as our coaching staff continues to mature and get older, is we remember these tough times, and how we responded is really what we're going to remember. And I think this team has the ability to do something special just because we're going to attack this every day.
Given that the at-large bid is a possibility, does that put more emphasis on the non-conference schedule to get ranked, to get recognized, and make sure you're in play come the selection committee meeting?
I think that's a great question. I think, I was in the CAA when this happened at Penn State, and Coach Zambroni is someone that I've always had a great relationship with. And I called him, and one of the number one things that he told me right when I spoke to him was their focus at Penn State that year was to win every game to make it get an at-large bid. They lose 2 overtime games to start the season, and because their only focus was that, their season just tanked, right? And it was tough to be involved. So I think the lesson learned from that, and having great mentors and people I can count on as a coach, is it's not about that. It's never really about that, right? It's trying to become the best version of ourselves individually and our team. So we're just really focused on that. And these guys have a great bond and a great kind of connectivity to them that we want to send these seniors out the best we possibly can. We can't control the selection. We can't control this. Sometimes the ball hits the pipe when it doesn't go in, right? We can't control those things. We can control how we prepare and how we practice every day. And we're going to keep the focus on that as much as possible. And, we have an opportunity to still play every team in the America East and win the regular season title is something we're still really focused on. And, I think just getting better every day kind of takes the emphasis off of, oh my God, this is the most important thing in my life. And that's when you grip your stick a little bit tighter and you yell at the refs when they make a bad call. I mean, I do enough yelling at the refs anyway, so I don't need any more reason to do that. So we're trying to stay focused.
We asked Dylan this question as far as his role on the team as it grows. I mean, every award you can imagine he won last year, and ironically enough, he is one of the faces of the America East Conference, even though we can't compete in the tournament. And do you see, or does he see any additional pressure because of that? Because his role is going to grow. I mean, he is more of the offense is going to go through him. He's going to be rising to the leadership role a little bit more every year. Do you see additional pressure on him now?
No, I think Dylan, I think the best part about Dylan, obviously, when you get to really know him, is he's very humble, right? And he's not a guy that takes him, and he won rookie of the week every week, whatever it was there for a stretch. And
7 weeks.
Monday, he was the same
Yeah.
kid, and Tuesday, he was the same kid, right? And you hear coaches say it all the time, right? When your best players are your hardest workers in practice, you got something good. And Dylan has been one of our hardest workers from the first day he got on campus last year and every day this year. So he's just playing within himself. And, he's a talented kid. We all saw that last year. We see it every day in practice. But we have really talented players on the offensive end. His focus is to continue to do 1/6 and whatever his role is in that possession or that time, he's going to capitalize on it. So I think that's really one of the best things about him, and especially being a young kid to have all this thrown on him. He gets elected captain by his teammates for a reason, right? That's part of how they view him, and being a young guy to get elected captain is an exciting thing for him. So it shows the kind of kid he really is.
How excited is he to have his brother come along and play?
Oh, he's enjoying it. I mean, they're completely different. That's the best part about it. I mean, their personalities are completely different. One's righty, one's a lefty. I mean, there's nothing similar except the last name. So, but they have some fun, and it's good for the family.
Kid?
Yeah, and that's going to be really exciting. And I'm hoping we see the two of them on the field at the same time because, that chemistry is there and is huge, obviously, in the success that is able to translate on the field. But besides that, there's a lot of new faces as well, along with Ryan Palinetti joining. And what was that like for you and your coaching crew over the offseason, having to replace some of the longtime veterans like Han, Piquel Jr., with transfers and upcoming freshmen, sophomores, etc.?
Yeah, I think, it's going to be part of the process when we're here every year is, I think the transfers are going to be a big piece of it. I think not as many as we had hopefully every year. I mean, 9 transfers, a lot of transfers, and I think it's when you take transfers, I think there's a fine line, right? You got to take guys for need, not guys to just stockpile talent, right? So we've had some positions of need, and we addressed that through the transfer portal to help solidify our attack, our defensive midfield, get a little more competition in the goal. So I thought we did a really good job of being strategic in that. And those guys are all different ages. We have some grad transfers, some sophomores, some freshmen, eligibility wise. So we're able to kind of continue to build the roster the right way without making it super top heavy in one class. And we've had some guys leave throughout our time here. So it was a way to kind of balance the roster. I think if you look at our roster from top to bottom, it's pretty balanced by class. So I think that's part of it.
How does that change your role as a coach, though? Because the transfer portal is pretty much here to stay. And you're almost like functioning like a general manager, looking at the trade wire and seeing who becomes available and who might fulfill a role and whether or not that person's going to get in the way guy you're developing. How does that affect your work?
No, that's a huge part of our job, right? It's definitely much more like a GM than you are like a typical coach. But I mean, in lacrosse, we've been able to transfer and play immediately forever, right? So it really hasn't changed how it's been. It's just more visible and it's more in the public's eye because of the transfer portal has now impacted football, college football, and college basketball. But for us, we've always had that, and I think that kind of gets lost a little bit in all this transfer portal. Like, oh, it's chaos. It's like, no, guys have played on a fall in one school, transferred, and can play that spring in the other school. So we've always had that. I've always been fortunate to have a lot of success with transfers in my time at, whether it was Ohio State or at Towson. So I think that's something that we're still going to try and continue to work. But again, you still got to find the right kind of kids, right? I think you can get blinded by talent sometimes. So we really try and focus on what are we looking for? What do we need? And how does this kid fit into our culture and our program?
Yeah, and with that too, how long did it take for you to get that roster that you really felt comfortable with heading into this year?
I mean, we selected it. We had one guy in January. So, I think we're always trying to see where we're at. Flick my light on there. So, I think we're excited with the guys we have. We're excited with the young guys. I think we have some injuries, which has put a lot of pressure on the fact that we don't have a ton of guys. With 47 guys, 3 of them are goalies, a couple face-off guys, and now you're thin with some injuries. So, I think we're in a good spot and we're excited where we are, but we're always looking to continue to develop and upgrade where we need to.
One other thing that I think has been the case across the athletic department is that you guys have managed to maintain good COVID practices to the point where whenever a game got canceled with the basketball teams, it was the other team doing it, not us. How have you guys managed to stay healthy so far with that?
I think we have great kids and they understand the responsibility and the expectations, right? And I think when you have that year taken away from you, I mean, you're willing to do anything to make sure it doesn't happen again. I think last year's group really kind of went above and beyond just to try and play every game, and it was sometimes to a detriment of kind of building a team, right? I think that's kind of gets lost a little bit. This weekend we were in Philadelphia, we stayed in the hotel, we had a team meal together for the first time in a long time, and it's just like, you kind of miss just sitting at the tables. We have coaches and players and mingling at different tables and you kind of miss that. And I think that's really is when you get out of coaching or you're done playing, you remember those times way more than you remember the shot you took or the goal you scored, right? So, I mean, that group last year that graduated, they missed a half a season of games and a ton of experiences that they'll never get back. So we're trying to maximize this group's ability to be together, safely and responsibly, and they've done a really good job with that.
Obviously, you have your short term is this season. But over the long term, how has the CAA moving up to the CAA affected your recruiting? I mean, has it had any effect yet? We've only been in a week.
No, it hasn't been a big uptick right away. I mean, the CAA is a really good league and we're excited. Obviously, I was a member of it for 8 years and won 5 championships. So I understand what it takes to win there. Coach Brazel was an assistant in the CAA for a long time as well. So we understand the teams we're going against, the coaches, the programs, and I think that's going to help us come game day more so, than the teams in the America East, right? We played only this is our 3rd year. We've only played 1 season of America East games. And that for me, every time we played those teams was the first time I played them, except for UMBC. So I think going back to a league, I'm really familiar with the coaches and the players and the type of kids they get is big. And we'll continue to, again, identify the right kind of guys for a program, which moving to that league doesn't really change it a ton, to be completely honest. It's very similar talent wise. It's just more depth of talent, right? And I think that's really the biggest thing that we got to get ready for.
Also, as far as the locals are concerned, you put together this tournament you got going on early in the season at Stewart Stadium. This is, I think, one of the more exciting things to look forward to this season is that you can build rivalries that way. Obviously, the natural rivalry with Hofstra is going to be, amplified because you'll be playing in the same conference. But St. John's is no slouch either, and you're building something here that I think can build into something even bigger in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a great concept, right? And I think college basketball teams have been doing it for years, right? With all those November tournaments. And I think conceptually for us, it was the right time to kind of get involved in it when we just wanted to continue to have that play one day rest, play for a championship, right? So it kind of prepares you for the conference tournament, which is the goal. Obviously, not being able to play in the tournament this year is not what we were anticipating when we did this, but it still gives you the opportunity to have that experience for down the road, right? And to win, bragging rights on Long Island is always something that is very important in recruiting. We do recruit against St. John's and Hofstra and LAU a lot, so hopefully it can give us a leg up. And then obviously, where it goes from here is going to be interesting with us and Hofstra being in the same league. I think we're trying to figure out how we can continue something like this, or is our game versus Hofstra, conference game, so we're trying to figure that out a little bit, but we're excited to get it out there and see how it goes this year.
Yeah, and for me, I would really take focus more on the roster and some of the guys. First, just looking at the returners, Mike McCannell, I think, is the headliner, right? His graduate year. He's going to be man in the midfield. Matt DeMayo's returning for his 2nd season as a Seawolf. Who's another graduate. Wayne White's he's a nicknamed captain, graduate as well. What is it like for those returners and those veterans? What do you feel like the roles for those guys are going to be this season?
Yeah, I think it's exciting to get them back, right? Selfishly, I mean, they're really talented players and they're, even better kids, which is always what you want in your program. So it's fun watching them play. Like I said, I know I've said before, is offensively, we returned so many guys that we were so far ahead of the defense. And that's a credit to those guys, not only being talented players, but having a ton of retention when they came back. So we were able to really kind of jump ahead, and then we had to kind of back it off a little bit to let the defense catch up because there's a lot more new guys on that side of the ball. And then those guys have done an unbelievable job of growing from our fall scrimmages, whereas Army and Marquette, to where we are now. So it's kind of been a battle now every day in practice. So it's been good. But those guys, those returners have been great. Wayne is, here for his sixth year, which is, rare and exciting at the same time. And he's playing probably his best lacrosse he's ever played. So it's really exciting to see him get out there this season and be aggressive and get out there a ton.
Yeah. What has the chemistry been like too with the transfer classes and the veterans? And a couple guys I'm looking in particular is Chris Merle from Virginia and Kevin Mack from Michigan. And your transfer class was ranked 8th in the nation by Inside Lacrosse. So obviously, this goes shows one of the best in the U.S. And what about them do you think is really going to stand out on the field this season?
I think Chris brings someone who's won 2 national championships. I mean, anytime you can bring someone like that into your program, it is a huge win. He's a guy who's going to be playing 2 sports here, so he's also practicing with the football team. So he's looking to play football this fall as well. So he's kind of comboing, doing some voluntary stuff with the football team as well as practicing with us. So he's a really special kid, very competitive, very athletic, very tough. And Kevin's done a really good job filling a void. Again, we talked about kind of having a void at the attack position, especially the right hand attack position and a quarterback style guy. And Kevin's done a good job kind of coming in here and learning our offense and buying into the things we're doing. And it's a daily process with him, but he's ultra talented and he kind of brings a new dimension of a really good feeder as well. So that's opened up a lot of things for guys cutting inside and working hard to get some easy goals.
How fast did he pick up the quarterback position? Because that was something that, at least for me, Sherman, I would agree, was really somewhere where Pikel Jr. really excelled with the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin's done a good job just because he's got a super good IQ, right? He's a talented kid from Manhasset, played at Michigan for 4 years. So he's done a really good job. He spends a lot of time here with Coach Chanachuk and kind of understanding it. And we have a process of installing the offense, and he bought it in and picked it up pretty quick. He's a talented guy. So it's his last year, and he knows that. So he's putting all his chips in right now to have the best season he could possibly have for himself and our program.
Again, there's so many there's so many dynamic players and scorers, especially in this offense. Do you feel that this offense is better now than the one you had last year? This is the team last year that averaged about 15 goals per game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be tough to beat. I don't know. I mean, we're excited where we're at. I think it comes down to in the moment, how do we play and how do we shoot, right? You're only as good as you shoot the ball in games, and we've scrimmaged some really good goalies this year to kind of get us ready to understand how effective we have to shoot. So that part's been fun to see us understanding what's a good shot versus what's a great shot. And then when you shoot it, where you got to put it. So, I mean, we got a good group. We're excited. We feel like we have a good system and the guys are very unselfish, right? So anytime you have that, the sky's the limit.
Question we get is that with the extra year of eligibility that a lot of these guys have due to COVID, you have grad transfers we just mentioned. When does that run out? In other words, when do we go back to the regular rules again? When these current players cycle out, or anybody who was around in 2020 has an extra year of eligibility? So we're not going to see the end of this in 2025. How's that going to work?
Yeah, we have 2 more years of it, I believe. So we have this year and then 2 more. So it's interesting, right? And I think that's something that we're all, especially in recruiting, right? And I think now that last year, all those guys that came back didn't count against our 12.6 scholarships. This year they do, right? So it's way more strategic on how you do that and how you manage who you bring back, as opposed to everyone could have brought back as many guys they wanted last year, and we were fortunate to have 8 of them. So it's definitely strategic, and it's being a player development program. You're trying to manage getting reps for guys that we think can develop and be really good, as well as bringing more guys in. So it's, again, there's a point when you have too many, 1-year rental guys. So I think we're very mindful of that.
So you don't want to clog up the pipeline, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think it's, like I said, I think it's all about need. If you have an immediate need, you got to fill it. And if you don't, how does this guy really fit in? Is he going to be someone, and I think you see it in some other sports and basketballs and things like that. When you bring in transfers that played somewhere and they don't play now, how does that go? Right. So I think we're all trying to figure that out.
Last one for Coach. He needs to get to practice, guys.
Yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just sorry. I think just really we saw obviously how last year ended. It was the disappointing end to last season. So what is it? What can this team do to really show that obviously they belong in the NCAA tournament and show they were a better team than the squad you had last season.
Yeah, I mean, last year you look at it, we're at 8-6. We lose 3 1-goal games, 2 in overtime, 1 they forget to start the clock.
Yeah.
So I think that team was 3 or 4 goals away from being really good. And Tommy Burke for the Fairmont faceoff guy did a great job against us back-to-back weeks. I mean, so sometimes you just run into that. But we don't really, I'm going to be honest with you guys, we don't talk about that at all. I mean, last year's over and we're just trying to become the best team we can be. And as much as it is coach speak, it's the truth. I mean, that's what we talk about. Obviously with the CAA news and those things has really amplified how important it is to just focus on us.
Matt, do you have it?
Well, you have to get to practice, right? So
One more. I'll give you one more, Matt. Go for it.
okay, one more. Okay. Because we've covered a lot here, but we really haven't covered, we've been emphasizing the offense and Fogo and defense. We haven't really talked about much. Give us a little rundown of what to expect there.
I think defensively, Coach Brazel's done an unbelievable job with those guys. I mean, we are more athletic than we've ever been. The defensive midfield position is light years ahead of where we've been our first 2 years. Guys like Dave Mealy has really taken a massive step forward. Ben Morchauser played a bunch for us last year as a fourth D-midi. He's really taking big strides. Dane Reed is another guy with a freshman by the name Preston Krall, who's done a great job. So that position went from a so-so position to, I think one of the better D midfield groups out there in the country when it's going to be all said and done. So I think that part's exciting. Michael Sabella's back, Christian Loud's back, 2 known commodities. And we have a grad transfer on defense, Jacob Williams from Mount Olive, D2 All-American. He's done a really good job of coming in and he's very talented. He's good off the ball, good on the ball, good off the ground. So we're excited there. Anthony Palmer's back with some good competition in the gauge. So we feel like we have a good group and we're excited to put him out there. But I think the biggest change is how athletic we are down there for the first time.
All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Coach, for joining us. Best luck this season.
Thanks, guys.